want to continue this conversation. Obviously, it's a big talker, and unfortunately, it is because of the death there of the one woman right now. But let's get a little bit more insight right now on all of this. Let's bring in our friend here on LiveNOW from Fox, a friend here of this program, the criminal defense attorney Vinoo Varghese, joining us right now. Thanks so much for coming on again.
My pleasure. Happy to be here. I apologize in advance for the noise. I'm actually in Ecuador at the moment, but when you guys call, I always answer the call.
That's awesome. We appreciate you joining us here on this Friday. So let's get right into it. What could possibly the production company of this film be facing here with this death on the set?
Well, look, obviously, there's a criminal investigation going on. As you mentioned a minute ago, there was a search warrant filed. There's evidence that's been obtained, and it appears that there was a live round in that gun. That could be potentially criminally negligent homicide. I don't see any liability on the part of Alec Baldwin unless that somehow it comes out that he knew or should have known, but it's unlikely in terms of him. But in terms of the people involved in the company, there is normally what's called an armorer on the set who's supposed to check the safety. If that person was negligent, then you could potentially see criminal charges on top of any potential civil charges a civil suit that could occur as a result of this for wrongful death from the family of the woman who died.
All right, and let's also talk about how this investigation will likely go here. So right now, we know it's just right now in the beginning stages, but how will they go about the investigators looking at, okay, where was the gun in the first place, and maybe the different spots it was in during the day, and who handled it? How will they have that type of checking if there's no really documents to provide that?
Well, they're going to interview everybody, and then this is going to be where it gets interesting to see if anyone, as they say in common parlance, lawyers up. And at that point, they're going to be stymied a bit, but basically they will hope with interviews of everyone else, including Alec Baldwin, who appears to be cooperating with the investigation. They should then be able to piece together who was the person who loaded the gun. And the person who loaded the gun, who loaded it with live bullets, is going to have criminal liability here. The civil side will come later, but initially there will be somebody who's going to be held criminally liable because you have a homicide, you have the death of a person by another, and this is a preventable. It appears clearly a preventable death. This should not have happened. So there should not have been a live round put into this gun.
And also, let's also talk about the very simple fact of lots of cameras around the set, obviously, because they're making a film. How much of that will go into the part of getting all of the relevant video?
Well, that's an interesting question. Who knows whether these cameras are continuously rolling? They probably are not, because I imagine there are things that go on sets that actors like Alec Baldwin, producers, don't want to get out into the public. I mean, we've seen over the years of newscasters, not you, of course, but newscasters, some famous ones, Bill O'Reilly, when they thought the camera was off, and it was rolling, and things were said that weren't so nice. So I doubt that the cameras are rolling continuously unless the area has security camera that's running at the same time. So that's an interesting question. I would be surprised if there was continuous cameras rolling at the time that this was that they were filming.
Okay, and then also when we're talking about this investigation and just how everything played out, it seems like at least there's going to be most likely, if not a criminal charge, but something very big with civil, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and this is where it gets interesting because my understanding is Alec Baldwin is a producer on this, so he may have had a financial interest in this or some stocks, for to say, in this company, and then he may end up being the one who's a named defendant in a civil suit. At the moment, it appears he wouldn't have any criminal liability because he it would be very surprising if he knew or should have known that the gun was going to be loaded, because there are people on the set that are there to ensure that the gun works right. But I would not be at all surprised if Alec Baldwin is a named defendant in the civil suit, the eventual civil suit, when it comes out.
Okay, and then how likely, obviously with an investigation and then pending lawsuits, how likely is this movie even going to be even seen, or even production going to happen, continue?
Well, I often comment on Hollywood and things that go on over there. I would, at this point, venture to guess it's unlikely that it will continue. Apparently, it's not a high budget film. I think it's something around $7 million. So, which obviously the common man's a lot, but not in Hollywood terms. It's a low budget movie. So I would be surprised if the production actually continues at this point. But maybe it'll get an outside investor, and presuming, that Alec Baldwin is not named or has no financial liability in this woman's death, then who knows? It could go forward.
Yeah, it's just a sad case all the way around when you're looking at that. Such a tragedy for that to happen, but definitely still needs to be investigated. Any closing comments that you want to have here on this case?
Just that it appears, and a number of experts have spoken to different papers, ranging from the Wall Street Journal to the New York Times, and I've read some of these, safety experts, and talking about the different types of guns that are used, these prop guns, which are supposed to be filled with blank cartridges, and there's supposed to be someone on who's supposed to keep it safe. Apparently, the woman who was the person who was supposed to be the armorer is a young woman, only 24 years old, and the first time that she had worked was recently on a Nicolas Cage low-budget film. So, and she apparently made a tweet that she wasn't sure she could handle it. So there could be some real interesting things that will happen, to Alec Baldwin if he was involved in the decision-making for bringing her on. But the larger issue is that this shouldn't have happened. This shouldn't have happened at all. It shouldn't have happened to Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, when he was killed on the set of The Crow. I remember that. I was in college, and he was an up-and-coming star. And then there was another actor, John Eric Hexum, in the 80s, who I used to watch when I was a kid on a show called Voyagers, who was also tragically killed on set. None of this stuff should have happened. And, it's preventable, but there are 43 on-set deaths since 1990, and it seems all of them were preventable.
Yeah, such a sad cases there, and sad reminders there that at any moment something like this can happen, and that's why really in these types of situations people just got to always be checking and rechecking, I guess, when it comes to working on those sites, especially when it comes to firearms. So criminal defense attorney Vinoo Varghese, thank you so much again for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. Always a great friend here to the program. We appreciate it, and you have a good night, and have a great weekend.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.